Salut ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jim and welcome to the Sounds German review of the new Harakiri For The Sky album, Arson. Harakiri For The Sky is of course the modern or post-black metal duo from Austria, which I have been following since their sophomore album Aukigahara. And back then it really didn't sway me a whole lot, but in 2016 they released the album Number 3 Trauma and it just absolutely blew me away. One of my favorite albums of 2016, hands down, and I felt it just connected with me in all the right places. So naturally, I had a lot of high hopes for Arson, and I'm happy to say I was not disappointed. The opening track, Fire Walk With Me, already puts up a good pace right away, opening up with fast drums on the guitar and few, but nonetheless driving piano notes. And it only takes about 10 seconds before Harakiri For The Sky deliver what they are best at. Hard electric guitars, hefty drums, aggressively shouted and screamed lyrics. And to be honest, this album feels more like a logical sequel to its predecessor and did not have as much of a wow effect on me the same way Number 3 Trauma had, but I would chalk that up simply to the fact that I already liked Number 3 Trauma so much and I kinda expected and hoped them to go further into that direction. And just like with their predecessor, they drive the line established in the first song throughout this over 70 minutes colossus of an album. This is an album that just takes the time it needs, and it shows. This time around, the atmosphere overall feels a bit more heavy, a bit more oppressive, and lacks a little bit of the aggression of the prior songs. But don't get the wrong idea, this is still a pretty hard album. It is metal after all, and you will get a lot of distorted guitars and hammering drums thrown at you. I just feel that in comparison, even the hardest, fastest moments on this album take it a little bit slower and don't peak as hard, and I feel it serves the atmosphere overall pretty well. There is, for example, this beautiful, playful, yet somewhat melancholic guitar line in the track The Graves We've Dug that's in the background for a lot of the track, then gets a few moments front and center before getting pushed back again for more guitars and the vocals. But you have it constantly there, always shining through, taking a bit punch out of the song while at the same time giving it this slightly added depressive feeling. And while the tracks got this hypnotic level of repetition to them that is inherent to black metal of all sorts, the album itself basically recycles nothing. You have elements and ideas in the tracks that get used once and are never heard of again. Heroin Waltz, for example, has this acoustic guitar and ambient opening piece that just no other track has. Or take the bridge near the end of Voidgazer, which reminded me a whole lot of Agalog, both in terms of sound and atmosphere. The same track throws a little really lo-fi sounding bridge at you just 3 minutes prior, and it feels like all these little elements that only get used once were placed carefully and deliberately where they are. Nothing was done just to do it, everything is exactly where the guys behind it wanted it to be. What, however, seriously surprised me was the bonus track Manifesto, which seems to be exclusive to digital versions. In it, Harakiri For The Sky is accompanied by Silvia Bogojevic, I hope I pronounced that right, and another songstress named Lisa for the choir work. The song for the most part is basically divided into calm sections which are accompanied by Bogojevic's high-pitched clean vocals, and then instrumentation and atmosphere just tilt over to the usual brand of metal Harakiri For The Sky are known for. I really wasn't sure what to think of this in the beginning, but once it sunk in a bit, I noticed how well these styles bounce off each other. Now, to be fair, this is quote-unquote only a cover from a band called Graveyard Lovers, but it's still a standout track and makes me wish Harakiri For The Sky would employ additional vocalists more often, because it worked out so incredibly well here. And just like with their last album, I really enjoyed the whole package here. There are just so many layers to discover and unfold on this album. The lyrics hit the same kind of what I would call dark or broody poetry, just like the prior albums did, and once again you get this feeling that at least some, if not all of the texts have some personal background based on real events the members went through. All the while, Harakiri for the Sky steer clear of cliches though. I gotta admit though that especially that little lo-fi bridge I mentioned earlier made me wish for an overall rougher, a bit dirtier, a bit more lo-fi production, even if it would have been for only one track. The production of this album is full and rich in terms of the power of the sound, so to say, but for my liking it's also just a little bit too clean, a little bit too well produced, which I admit is something I often wish for with metal albums, but just to make sure there is no misunderstanding here, I think the sound of the album is perfectly fine overall. You know, it doesn't sound bad, it doesn't sound overproduced in any way, but that little lo-fi teaser, so to say, really, it got me interested in how Harakiri for the Sky would sound if they would do this for at least a track, if not a whole album. I think it could work out really well. Harakiri for the Sky delivered another roller coaster here. This album takes you from hard, thrashing moments that have a pure black metal heart beating in their chest to parts that are almost doomishly slow paced and heavy. It's both a bit of a gut punch and melancholic, aggressive yet sad. And even though it's over an hour of playtime, a whopping 71 minutes overall, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It doesn't drag on or get stale over time, which, given this playtime, is really a feat. It just takes as long as it needs, pretty much exactly for everything it does. But the atmosphere is just so dense and well realized that you can easily lose yourself in the album and don't notice how much time has passed, which, at least to me, is definitely a mark of quality. So, as a conclusion, Arson is a very worthy follow-up to Number 3 Trauma and just an excellent album by Harakiri for the Sky in its very own rights. The Austrians deliver once more, and no matter if you are into pretty straight post-black metal without, let's say, shoegaze influences in it or whatever, or if you want to get into it, this is definitely a recommendation for you. It didn't blow me away as much as its predecessor, but that's only because this album was pretty much what I expected and hoped it to be. Still, Arson is a strong entry into their discography, thick with atmosphere and full of intriguing compositions. And honestly, I can't wait to see what these guys will come up with next. So I hope you enjoyed this review, and if you did, please leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you didn't like it, we have a button for that too. And if you have listened to this album, feel free to tell me in the comments what you thought about it. And if you want at least one weekly music review from an artist or band you probably never heard about before, just subscribe to the channel. You can also follow Sounds German on Facebook or Twitter. I do usually post daily new music videos on there from all kinds of artists. I hope to see you again next time. Have a nice day. Salida.